Hello everybody. Today I want to talk about an experience I call the time I met what we call God, what we call Jesus. And as I tell you this story, of course, we have to be super open-minded about whether this is any form of confirmation or not, because if you've been listening to my previous stories, I've been talking about going to visionary state. And when you're in visionary state, sometimes you don't know it and you think you're talking to somebody and you're not, and you find out later, and it can be a crazy making experience in some cases. So anyways, this could be a story of confirmation, or maybe it could just be another form of deception that occurs in the visionary state. Anyways, I want to show you where I'm at. I'm up high on a mountain looking back at my neighborhood, and anyways, I want to show you where I am. I want to move from here, but you see, this is like just drop-offs right here, and I want to be really careful up here. It's kind of steep. Anyways, I'm like a little mountain goat or something, or a mountain lion. I'm some kind of a mountain creature. Okay, and I'm going to show you where I'm at here. This is the type of stone that we're looking at down these cliffs, and kind of where I crawled down here just a moment ago. I was thinking I kind of like it right up here. I feel a little safer if I went up here, because that looks really steep and slippery where I was. Oh yeah, just so you can see what it's like to be a Jody. Yeah, that's the hiking trail I came off of. You know, it's for the sissies. Ha ha ha. This is a nice place to hang out and meditate and get your breathing meditation. Anyways, why don't I do this? Ooh, wow. You know, I kind of thought this would be a good place to talk, because the story I'm going to tell took place in Denver, Colorado, or in Lakewood. And what we used to do for a good time is go up to Lookout Mountain and look out over Denver. And similarly, you know, you can see the horizon. Here we don't have a horizon. We have the Swan Mountains, and see that? That's the canyon where I go to work at. You go up that way, that's Whitefish. But if you go down the other end, I can see the Mission Mountains come to the end. So I mean, that's Big Fork. So I know this whole valley. I can look out and tell you what everything is, right? And in Boulder, Colorado, we would go to Settlers Park and climb up on the Red Rocks, you know, so there's a lot of cool overlooks there. So I love this overlook for this area. It's right by my house, real easy to get to. And then just behind this hill is one of my favorite lakes, thankfully, because it's the one I go to most often. Other than that, I really like the Flathead more. Anyway, so before I moved to Montana, I had a series of things. I kind of think 2009 was a very spiritual year, and so what led up to it, I think, you know, I've been going through my personal crisis with how come I'm having this visionary stuff happen. Don't seem to be very helpful to me. And things seem to be getting worse with that. And so I reconnected with my old friend Elias, and he's into the Lakota thing. And so we started hanging out and talking, and he let me know he's been involved with a medicine man. And I said, you know, I've been thinking about trying to find a Lakota medicine man, because they do this thing called Vision Quest. And I thought then they're the right people to help me out, because I have an issue with going to visionary state and, you know, and not having the right people to talk to. I've been talking to the wrong people. So most people just tell me to go see a shrink, and I don't think that that a regular psychologist is always going to be helpful with stuff like that. But I guess I can see where you know, there are definitely psychologists or therapists that could help me with the whole issue of, you know, all the stress and all the grief or whatever I've had throughout my life. But the visionary state, I think, is a tricky subject, and that's why, you know, I don't really have the money anyways. You pay a lot of money, and then you might have to try a lot of different doctors. So anyways, I was looking to think maybe I should go to a medicine man. So I went to Arizona with Elias in I don't know, it was April. I think it must have been April. We went down to Arizona to this elders. It's like a big group of people were meeting, all these indigenous elders and medicine people, and then they were going to have a youth council, and he was telling me I should be part of the they're going to do like a circle, a talk, you know, and so I wanted to go to that. And so I just lost my job, and I was living off of what I had in the bank, which wasn't very much money. It was just something where I felt like I was getting really desperate and wanted to do something to find help. And I went down there and I connected with a Hopi lady named Janice, and I got to talk to her a little bit. And so she's a kind of a medicine person, but doesn't really carry a proper title. So we stayed in touch and talked quite a bit, I'm going to talk about Janice a little bit later on, but I was introduced to Uncle David. That's what Elias calls him, so I don't know if everyone says that, but his name is David Swallow. And so this was going to be my medicine man later. And down at the camp, we went to a Dead Horse Ranch camp, I think. That's where we had our gathering. I did meet some people. They did like spiritual healing, and I felt like they were doing like, laying their hands on me and saying things to help call the healing spirits. And when I had my eyes closed, I could kind of see faces emerging from the backdrop. Like I could see a male and a female. They almost seemed like they're Middle Eastern people. And just a couple of really cool things happened down there where I felt like they were getting me prepared. Then I did a visit with the Hopi lady, Janice. And so we did a meditation together. And she says, I just happened to be a Hopi person who likes Buddhism, and I can tell you have a connection with Buddhism, through like your martial arts and everything. So, so we actually, had an interesting connection. I actually, I've always been interested in the Pleiadian stuff, like I was once told I could be a Pleiadian, and I was really curious about that. And she goes, yeah, well, so are a lot of people, and she told me that for, while I'm on that, Pleiadian people have been with us all along, so connecting with her was some colorful confirmation. So I just think, my trip to Arizona, it might have got me prepared for what was coming up. And, well, when I got back home from this trip, my roommate was getting really mad at me because she really liked that guy Elias that I was traveling with, and she got into like a relationship with him, and they were dating and, sleeping together, that type of thing. But for some reason she felt really jealous that me and him went off to Arizona, and she was making a big deal about it, and she was really stressing me out. And well, this is kind of a smaller confession where I was saying, sometimes, I use psychedelics, but I haven't done them in a long time. I had a stash of mushrooms, I really wanted to save them for a good day, you really want to be prepared if you're going to do stuff like that. And she was making me paranoid, and I didn't want her to, call the cops on me and have them find something like this in my house. So I thought it was time to eat those and get rid of them. And I've done this in the past, but it's been such a long time, maybe just here and there. And I've never had an experience quite like this. Usually I just feel like, when you smoke really good pot or something, just like extra high or something, I just feel like you just feel energetic. You feel, you can use a lot more visualization. I just listen to music and use a lot of visualization. I can dance all night, stuff like that. But this was particularly different because I was dealing with a lot of fear about, what's going to happen with me next. How am I going to deal with all this type of stuff? So, man, it got really dark on my camera. So let me do something here. I don't know if this is going to make a difference. Somebody was just ringing my phone, so I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm just trying to see if there's anything I could do to make an adjustment to the lighting here. But, yeah, so I don't know. I kind of squinting my eyes, so I'm going to keep my shades on, and talk to you guys. But, this is something where, like, it's questionable. I do visionary slips from time to time, and then, I've never had a mushroom trip like this. And, so of course, anytime someone's using psychedelics, either one or two things, you're tapping into an aspect of reality that's normally kind of blocked out or filtered by your basic setup for your brain, because you're just, you just need enough to survive physically for the most part. So we're very physically inclined, and we're not ready to perceive that much information. So when people do psychedelics, they can get overwhelmed and swamped with psychic information, and it can be very confusing and useless. For some other people, feel like it's helping them resolve a lot of things, and that it gives them unusual clarity rather than stupidity, where other drugs make you stupid, like drinking, like makes people act retarded, and it's okay because everyone does it. So, but this is very much the opposite, and something people should use respectfully or avoid it and be careful, like, so it's I don't want to recommend it to people, you know, and especially if it's illegal or dangerous. But for those of you who I can't stop, you know, it is what it is. You should definitely respect it for what it is. And I don't really, you know, mess around with stuff like that, because I'm a little bit concerned that, you know, if there's something wrong with me, I don't want to trip that up. I don't want to make things worse, right? So I haven't been having visionary slips in a long time. I just want to throw that in there, that I'm trying to stay level and stay out of trouble, because I feel like it's been misleading to me. So like going into visionary slip or thinking you're talking to God, this could be a big problem in human history. Are all these different people who thought they were talking to God, and what if they were, what if they ain't, you know? Because, you know, of course we got to start with, okay, is there any such thing as God in the first place? Number two, if so, how do you talk to God? It just seems like, you know, the universe is filled with billions and billions, you know, trillions, gazillions of beings, you know. I don't know how can one God, you know, converse with each and every soul. Give me a break, especially, you know, if everything on earth has a soul. That sounds ridiculous. But then again, Santa Claus gets everyone's presents out right by midnight, so that's another story. But that's the thing, is, you know, what we call God is something that obviously is, if there's any such thing, is too big to perceive. So, you know, it's something where it's come into our psyche, and it's been a conversation for ages, right? You know, that people think they talk to God, and they've got the conception there's such a thing. At any rate, when what I did was I was just sitting up in my bed, and I thought, you know, I felt like, you know, my roommate works all night. She's trying to go to sleep, you know, and I just felt like, you know, I need to stay upright, and I did something kind of inappropriate at the same time, as I had my cajones and my Buddhist scroll. You know, I felt like I should take it out, and I just kind of opened it up and laid it on a bed, and I was looking at it, and I was interpreting it like it's all Japanese and I can't understand it, you know. And it has like these columns that make me think of how your like spinal column and then a column to each side correspond to the column that you have inside of your body. And then I also had my cell phone here in my hand. I was holding my cell phone, and I was having this revelation that you're like a cell phone that can communicate to God, because it has a built-in antenna, which is your spine. Okay, and so I was kind of seeing that, and I was holding the phone, and I was realizing this and all this stuff. And I think I ruined the charger. Like the charger quit working on my phone because I was holding it right as I had this powerful insight that this is how it works, you know. That's how people talk to God or whatever. Because it's like, okay, so I did some other videos I call the 3 components of the universe. It's what we're talking about. I think what the revelation of the Holy Trinity is trying to tell us is that there's a singularity and a plurality made up of 3 basic components, and so you need to have conscious presence, the quantum energetic field, and then you have sort of the ultimate is like kind of the outcome, really. So thirdly is the outcome, but like at the same time it's like you have all 3 of them. That's why you have you know, so you yourself, I think the head, it corresponds pretty much to what we call God. That's the part of us that is conscious presence. The heart, that's the part of us that corresponds to the quantum energetic field that we call Holy Spirit. And that thirdly, the center of your body, that's what we can correspond to the Holy Sun, that is sort of the outcome but of those 2 components, but at the same time it's a necessary component of its own, you know. So it might be, you could consider that as the component of its own. And so also we want to back out another step and look at what's the whole of reality. The universe, or the all, is like a singularity. All things fall under natural law, and within that the duality is where you have fullness and emptiness. So to one side is all life, to one side is the void, so that brings about duality. People on earth are experiencing the impact of duality. But to one side is the what we call the Holy Trinity takes impact. Is you need the 3 components to have an existence. For every living thing, conscious presence is a key ingredient, but there also needs to be energy, and then it all brings about vibration, and vibration is the key ingredient to all matter. And so you know, so we got that figured out. So we're still trying to put it together. I think scientists are still, you know, kind of linking it all together. We're going to look at the universe as a living system with a conscious presence, and so this conscious presence element, right, that's what gives everything the code, the encodement to take form as a life form. So it organizes matter. So like both are true. Like the scientific part of us that's occurring up here, that's the part of us that corresponds to God. So that's where, you know, this is going to be very challenging to both the atheist and the Christian, is that, you know, the part of us that is a scientist is the part of us that is correlative to our Father in heaven. It's what makes us scientific. That's what makes us study the universe. So that's where, when I get contacted, what they say, and I say in a plural sense, because he goes, we are what you call God. We are what you call Jesus. And I could just feel it coming down through my crown and into my heart, just like a burst of energy, because I was starting to realize how much we work like a cell phone with an internal antenna. And it's like the information was coming down through my spine, and I could feel it in my heart. So I could know the truth by feeling it in my heart. But it was just like, then I felt like, instead of seeing something out here, like I didn't see a person in front of me. Everything was just normal looking to me, so this is where, like, you can ask yourself, was this all happening in your head, was it just you tripping on mushrooms? Or is this a good form of confirmation? Because, there's a lot of people that have experienced something like this, and some people go nuts and they turn into very religious people, and then their whole family gets tired of them, right? So that could happen in some cases. So some people have a very desperate situation in their life. People are brought close to their death, and somehow they get contact with God, and it's an uplifting thing, and then they get all churchy. But I never did that, I just think, it just adds further confirmation that you should respect people for what they believe, because there's some truth in it. But it's a difficult thing to manage, learning something on that level. So, that's where a lot of deception takes place. So there's a lot of bad things that have occurred as a result of religious people who are doing the wrong things, like we look back to the Inquisition and all that stuff. And in recent times, like people are saying, we really shouldn't, bring our kids up threatening them that they might go to hell and all these kind of things. And, being really hard on our family members that don't conform and participate in the exact same church practice. They might quit the church or go on to other things, and then their family will ostracize them and stuff, so, stuff like that can make people really harsh on each other. And that's not, that's not really, I think, if there's any such thing as God and Jesus, that's not what was intended. I think it's very humanistic. And so by saying that, okay, so when we say what we call God, what we call Jesus, that implies that these beings understand me. They know how I think. They know I'm one of those people that, like, I know there's more to life. I know there's a spirit reality and that it's unexplainable. But at the same time, I'm not a big fan of, like, going to church all the time and hanging around these type of Bible people that are really critical and afraid of people. Because I've had a number of parents growing up tell me I can't play with their children anymore because they think I'm satanic, or my family's satanic. Like the people up the street, could hear my dad's music, and that's how they know our family is satanic, right? Because we listen to industrial music and stuff like that. We listen to Skinny Puppy and bands like that, with, scary vocalists, and so we must be satanic, and we're anything but satanic. I really think we're good people, but, maybe you could say we've let Satan into our life through alcohol. So whether Satan exists or not, there still has to do with, a part of our psyche, the part of us that, goes to the dark side, And so when we talk about on one side is all life and the other is the void, either you're going to respond to the calling of heaven. Heaven is all life, actually. This is like we're really out on the edge of all life. And we're in a place where, we're exposed to the void, the impact of the void, and that's what brings coolness and the coldness of outer space. So that can also be detrimental to the soul. That can make you a dark person, and that could bring about demonic spirits or whatever. Make a spirit a dark being that, they're responding to the calling of the void. Those are the beings that are psychotic or something. They're the ones who destroy life and bring down our quality of consciousness and all that, Anyways, I kind of recommend Mark Passio's talk on natural law. I really think that, he pretty much explains a lot of the same stuff I believe, except that natural law has no creator, and that what we call creator is the component in nature that is a conscious presence. Conscious presence is like, definitely a force in nature that's bringing shape to biological life. I mean, absolutely necessary, and that's what we're going to figure out in the long run in what we call science, So I think I'm a little bit ahead, at least by speculating that. I'm just like, high school graduate. I'm not, college educated or anything, but I like to talk about stuff like that nonetheless. And I think that's a good question. So anyways, the conversation I had with God, or what we call God, Jesus, I think by starting out with that, it's like, boom, that's, those are earth words, God using the word God, it's kind of a primitive understanding of what's going on. It's kind of like a kid word, like the boogie monster or something, it's like right up there with silly words. So, maybe God's not a good word, and maybe that's why there's no such thing as God, because what a God is, it's like a super giant human that lives up in the clouds that has magical powers, so there might be something to it. There could be an ecosystem of spirit beings that exist in the ethereal world, like there could be some truth to that between our level of existence and the most high level of existence, what we call Jesus. That's the most high level of existence. It's like that, like if the universe has a soul, that's like the original soul, that's the one ancestor. That in itself can kind of make sense, because if you think about what the Big Bang Theory is saying, it's saying that all things came from one place. So all physical matter came from one place. On the same token, so did all conscious presence, so did all spiritual matter. So this is where it's all coming from. There's one original spirit, one original conscious presence, right? So that's where, we might figure out, okay, so there could be a core to the universe. That could be the universal sun. It projects these codes. Those codes go out to the galaxies, and so they go into the galactic centers, and those get projected out to every star that's in the galaxy. And so our star, the sun, it projects those codes onto Earth. So we're not just getting sunlight from the, and heat. We're getting biological codes. That's where our DNA came from, since we're at a good place, so maybe every planet in the universe that has the potential to take on a biological life get the similar kind of codes. And they could also have, just like Star Wars and Star Trek and all these TV shows you like, speculate, could have human life out there. And we think, wouldn't it be cool if we could space travel? So it's built into us to wonder if there's life on other planets, can we space travel, and all that good stuff, right? Because the universe could be teeming with life. There could be other planets like ours. There could be life on higher levels. In fact, it is said that life in the physical realm might only be the surface. It could only be a small portion. That the majority of the living, like in the galaxy, could be beings that are operating on a higher level of existence, and that's why we rarely ever see them. So like if you see spaceships in the sky and they're not man-made, then they're like, hi Earthlings, they're sending us confirmation. If you get beamed up, if you get contacted, it's for the sake of confirmation, if any. Which I've talked to some people that have been in contact, like Rosie Posey, my good friend I came up here to live with, and her daughter. And so by having her daughter and husband get picked up by a UFO, it really only happened as a demonstration that yes, we're here, yes, we can. And so these guys ain't hallucinating, this really happened. And so when people tell you their stories, and like me, I've been going to visionary state, and so you can go to visionary state and you can be contacted, you can be shown the future, you can learn things that are remote to you. Okay, at the same time, I'm being contacted by what we call God, what we call Jesus, and that's probably one of the biggest questions in the world, so I'm not going to call this proof at all, because it's not always reliable when if I'm going to visionary state or something like that, or especially if if there's mushrooms or whatever, maybe there is, maybe this is confirmation. So like this is a story for like the person who needs to hear it. There's somebody else in the world that needs to hear it. And so anyways, being contacted by what we call Jesus also implies this is a word we use in the Christian language. So Christianity is an earth-based religion that teaches the Holy Trinity, and that's the terminology. So it could be anything. Like the Urantia book says his name was Michael, but the Urantia book could also be folklore. So if you get the Urantia book, it explains the unfoldment of the universe, and here on earth we've had several stages of revelation, where when what we call Jesus came, he was here to bring revelation. So he needed to go through his incarnations, but at the same time needed to deliver his revelations to us. So and so the biggest revelation is that so I think for ages we've always known that we had a Father in heaven. We'd always known there's one great Spirit, and he came to like tie it up with the Holy Trinity. So that's the last piece you needed to spread out. And so we have to serve as a planet to every planet in our system that hasn't, so that's like a pretty far-fetched idea, but why not? It's kind of fun to think, okay, so the universe has kind of like the seat of the soul is that particular planet. Oh, what else is fun? They talk about multi-universe, that Jesus had brothers and sisters around I don't know, like maybe a good 250,000 of them. There could be a good 250,000 universes. Anyway, so fun to speculate. I mean, there's no solid proof, but why do we get these ideas? It's because we are made of the same stuff. You have a piece of yourself that corresponds to what we call God and what we call Jesus. And so that's where you even get the idea. And so that's where good questions come from. It's like built into us to ask those questions, and that's where the best science comes from. Okay. So it takes, that's where God is the scientist. So that's gonna be something people don't want to hear, but that's where you get these good science questions. How, where are we? What are we? How do we participate? And that's why we're getting this education. That's why if there's any such thing as God, Jesus, they need us to know how shit works, because we're supposed to participate, because you are conscious presence, and therefore you are a force in nature as well. And as you see, look out here, guys. That didn't come out of nowhere. Somebody built that. Mankind is a force in nature. We are using our scientific and mathematical knowledge to change the landscape right there, okay? There was nothing but grass and trees, and now look at that. And look at the shit going up and down that highway. They didn't come out of nowhere. It took math and science to build all that stuff, and that's exactly what the universe is based off of. Whether God knows math or not, you don't need to take math class. It's just how shit works. It's how universal law works. And as the universe expands, it's life living system known as the universe with everything in it, as we continue to expand and grow, we're limited to what natural law allows. But also, it seems almost unlimited, right? It almost seems like the possibilities are endless, but really we are limited to what nature allows, and that's why you can't live forever. That's why you're born and you die, because you're subject to natural law, and that's why you have to eat and shit it out and it stinks. Because you're subject to natural law, because God knows if he had control of everything, we would be in heaven. That's what heaven is. Heaven is the best potential reality in the living universe. So whatever that might be, it could be the place where there's only pure light and life force energy, and that way you don't suffer, experience anything. It's like an immortal reality. But when you go into places like planet Earth, you're actually going way out to the edge of a living system where you're being exposed to nature. So anyways, a lot of the revelations I think were really basic and simple. So I think the first thing you wanted me to know is that I'm okay, you guys. I think that's the best compliment you can get. Like I shouldn't let anybody put me down from here on out. I mean, after talking to God and Jesus, they said I'm okay and I'm doing the right thing. And we went over the subject matter of spirit law, which is pretty simple and basic. Okay, so spirit law, when you think about spirit versus conscious presence. So conscious presence is the part of us that's more intellectual. Okay, so the spirit is a part of us that's more to the heart. It's coming from the heart and love. So the giving and receiving of love, and so that's the energetic matter that everything connects through, right? So that's how we can communicate to God, is through improving upon that energetic field. That's why we need to do things that bring about Holy Spirit, okay? Because that's where then you can listen to the words of God. So things like the Bible or any spiritual text should be like the sun hitting the moon, okay? If you can talk to God, it's like getting right in the sun. But if you don't have a direct connection, other people who've done it and people have put it in writing, that's like the sun shining on the moon. So the book is there for your confirmation, and so you can have a tradition and a discussion, and and it really does help on some of those conversations. I've been to different Bible study, and I appreciate some of the things in there, but at the same time, it's a book, and it's it's got information, and you got to use your own discernment through your heart. And that's how spirit law works. Is it's not a science book. It's a book of confirmation, and people who wanted to share their journey and their their spiritual life, that this is what they learned from God. So this is my testimony, or whatever. So it's just confirmation, if anything, or maybe I was just high on mushrooms. It doesn't matter. But truth is truth no matter where you find it. And that's my precept, is you got to be able to look through the past the screen, like the way things are delivered. There's a lot of things there to block the light, and a lot of things to throw you off course. But ultimately, what you need to understand is what spirit law is, how it works, because we're not, people got evolution mixed up with chaos, and it's not that. It's more like so the earth is receiving codes, and so what creation is more like the universal template that that gives us our DNA codes, you know. So we're taking the best shape possible to be a human being, to be able to converse on an intellectual, like we're doing now. We can share our science and our knowledge, and now also to participate as co-creators. So that's super important, that you know that you're a co-creator now. That's what you were built to become. That's what the message is, because we're contributing to, so what we're experiencing in the earth is a plane of existence, and we're contributing to that plane of existence by what we're projecting. So that's why we need to know this. So that's why it's relevant. But I just want to throw my piece of sense into this, that okay, I got a lot of confirmation about spirit law. It's super basic. I want you to hear this. It's because we don't want to break boundaries, right? Like the universe has boundaries for a reason. That's why everything has sacred geometry. Those boundaries there keep everything connected. That's why we talk about the circle of heaven. Everything needs to be connected. So don't want to break that boundary, but we want to expand or change that boundary in a good way. So we don't want to be constricted by boundaries that are like fear-based boundaries that are no good, you know, because what it's doing is it's blocking that flow of the energy, you know, what we call Holy Spirit is not able to flow through these type of fear-based boundaries. Like the neighbors think your music is satanic or something, and you can't make friends with your neighbors. Right now, maybe the nation international issue is we should be afraid of the Chinese people because all this stuff going on. We should be afraid of Russians. And if we could do something to where, like, let's say, you know, we become a global community, the countries aren't afraid anymore. Like, we're a united planet, and we don't have enemies, you know. That's what brings about spirit law, for one thing. So on a super basic sense, you know, I think everyone on earth would love to see that happen. I mean, anyone that likes having enemies and worry about going to war, you're nuts. What we should have is a good friendship with every single country. You know, we should be sharing our knowledge and stuff like that. So it's already happening. Like, I've been doing martial arts since I was a kid, and so that helped me to love Asian people, because they have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge and intelligence and all this good stuff like you wouldn't believe. And so if you take Shaolin Kung Fu and learn through Asian philosophy, you know, they're great people. But today you're finding out China's doing some really crazy stuff, and we're wondering if they're infiltrating and doing all kinds of things that are unacceptable. And that's not, you know, I don't think that we should look, you know, we should hate a nationality over these type of instances, because that's not okay. But that doesn't mean, you know, you should hate Buddhism or you should hate Kung Fu or something. Because I remember I was working in a gift shop, and I told somebody about these I don't know, you know, those, like, those balls, you know, those healing balls, like these Chinese healing balls, right? That was healing balls or something. And this guy goes, I would never buy anything from China because they're a communist country, right? Stuff like that. So from being nationally connected to being connected to your neighbors, to your personal life, people are actually married to people who they don't have a good spiritual connection with. They don't trust each other. One's trying to spy on the other one, see if they're lying and cheating. So even within your marriage, within your family, there could be problems, you know. You don't trust your brothers and sisters. You don't trust your parents because they're violent and they're mean to you and stuff. And so you don't have a good connection. Maybe, you know, of course, your neighbors, so people at work. So really, to achieve spirit law, it's the ability to make friends with people and not be afraid of one another. Because once you're no longer afraid of one another, then you can communicate about everything. You're never afraid, like, man, if I tell them the truth, they're gonna hit me, you know. Like, you gotta trust somebody to tell them the truth. Even, like, you know, you might have to tell somebody something super embarrassing or bad that you did, or, you know, and you have to be able to, like, not be afraid of what the consequence is going to be, right? Stuff like that, super basic, everyday stuff, you know. And it's not going to happen overnight, right? So it's just something that you plant a seed of understanding and keep working on, really. And so so it really ties in with anarchy. So that's another Mark Passio subject matter. Now, the recent stuff Mark Passio is doing, I'm not sure if I agree with everything he's doing and saying at the moment. He's kind of laughing at people who don't listen to him and getting really pissed about that. But he's right about a lot of things. True anarchy is spirit law, you guys. It just means, you know, like, everybody knows what to do without having law enforcement. I mean, it'd probably put the police department out of business, or at least make their job different, you know. So it would eliminate violence, you know. It would probably turn into a vegan country or vegan planet or something in the long run, you know, because it's ending, you know. Anarchy is spirit law, because you don't need law enforcement because everybody knows how to do the right thing. Everyone knows what your rights are. You know your rights, you know everybody else's right, and you just, you're not living in a world where you're afraid another human being is going to violate you. So that's like heaven on earth, you guys, and that's what the Bible wants you to do. Like, I'm not promoting the Bible, but it's just like, for example, if you hate Christianity, or you're the Christians that hate the atheist, there's a major divide based on, if you're conforming to us or not, for one thing. But that's where you got to say, hey, isn't this our common goal, to bring heaven on earth? That's done through spirit law, and that's done through achieving true anarchy. Again, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's happening. In older times, I mean, you had to like have a gun or a sword or just be ready to fight for the death in the middle of the street. There was no law enforcement in every place, right? So I do martial arts, and I was just thinking about how lucky I am. I never need to use my kung fu. Like, the only combat I'm learning is like psychological combat right now. So I'm thankful I'm not living in an era where I need a big knife, because those who live by the knife die by the knife, right? I mean, so we're really lucky. Everything's getting better. It's less violent. I think that humanity, at least in my experience, I'm seeing an improvement. I think that people really are learning to be better. At the same time, it does seem like other things are spinning out of control, and some ways that does seem like some things are getting worse, because it is said that nothing stops evolution. However, there will always be times of retrogression, which are those places where you're just like, this stuff is so backwards, what are these people crazy? There's still some really bad stuff going on in the world nonetheless, right? Anyways, so being visited by God, I kind of put in a few requests of my own. I thought, hey, talking to God, I should put in a few prayers here and say, please give me a job I can do. I just feel like I'm struggling going from job to job. Give me a job I can do. I also asked, if I could have a break from having to work all the time. Maybe just live someplace where the rent is being paid and I'm just covered and I just get to relax. And I really didn't see it coming, but after I went to Vision Quest and came home to what you call Receive Blessing, Rosie Clearlight bought me a ticket to Montana, and she let me live with her rent free to be her in-home companion. So I was just there to be her sis, but at the same time became a spiritual student and close friend, right? So that, I think it was a prayer that came true, So I think, I've been given a number of jobs that I can do, that I think I've been really good at some of the jobs I am, like the one I'm at now, So I think, it's really hard for them to find a good person to help them run the store I work at, right? I'm a good person for it because of my level of education, because I have a understanding of true Christianity now, since I've had my little Jesus experience and I've lived with Rosie. I can assist up at Willow's Huckland, because this guy's a Christian minister. He's trying to do a good thing, and not everybody's okay with that. I think it's hard for him to find somebody to run his store for him while he's out of town and stuff, because most people are not reliable and trustworthy, or they don't jive with his little world that he's got there. He's got his own little world there, and you got to be able to jive with that. And thanks to my understanding, I can be more helpful there. And I have a safe, I have a type of job security for that reason. So it's been a big help in the long run. So some of those came true. I felt like I had an audience, I felt like it drew a lot of spirit beings. I couldn't see them, but I thought they were there. And my friend got out of bed, she's half awake, and she thought she heard a number of people in our house. She goes, Jody, who are these people in my house? And I'm like, Janet. And she looked around. She's like, I swear to God, it sounded like there were people. So it wasn't, so if I was in a visionary slip. I think I talked to her about it later too. She's like, she thought I let my friends in. But no, I had an audience, and God said, or what we call Jesus, and put it like that, because, okay, so maybe this is true. But, words like God and Jesus, those are earth words. Those are people words that people that live on earth say those words. There could be a better word for either case, right? There could be a better word for it. There could be a different word. There's so many, if every living being in the universe is subject to the same reality, it's the same thing for everyone, So that's the thing about natural law, is it applies to everyone, whether you know about it, whether you believe in it, or whether you even like it or not, right? So if there's any such thing as God and Jesus, and it's like the part of the three components of the universe, and it's really the three ingredients, conscious presence, energy, and vibration. and the stuff that you're made of, then we're all subject to the same reality, and that's what we got to look at it as, no matter how we slice it, right? So, all right, the funny thing is, let me see, during that conversation, one more thing I wanted to say is, so many people come to God with all these questions that you can answer already, that, you already know so much. Like, it's kind of talking to me, maybe talking to everyone on earth, so maybe it's a good message for everyone on earth, is you already know so much. Like, all you gotta do is go to your own library. I mean, God knows our library, and he knows it's got a lot of stuff in it that's correct. Okay, so it's kind of like a thumbs up to humanity. Like, we're right about a lot of things, so we shouldn't be so hard on ourselves. We're so right about a lot of things, we almost don't need God to answer most of those questions, right? So sometimes you just got to learn to trust your own wisdom, but at the same time, we don't want to turn you down. Like, God doesn't want to turn you down, like, by all means. I think that they've been trying to tell us all these years, like, to acknowledge that existence, and to, most importantly, connect. I think they really want, if we could communicate, that would change everything. That's what we're trying to get. So when we talk about, okay, I've been really interested in psychic awareness. Psychic awareness really brings about telepathic communication between you and other people. Okay, so through spirit law, you can attain that. It's going to come natural. We're going to have almost a telepathic communication where you can communicate with people on a higher level. And so what's happening sideways wise, okay, so across the world, through the connection through your loved ones, friends, neighbors, and so on, through international connections, through the connection of religion and tradition, we're building a network, or a web of energy, a web of life, okay, where weaving a web of life. And what it does is it helps to catapult us into the Most High connection. So it's one thing to work alone on this process of reaching that Most High connection, to when you can communicate with what we call God and Jesus. And I wish I could do it every day. It's only going to happen once in a while, and it really should happen to everyone. I think everyone should experience that. It should, be a normal thing, right? Because we're all subject to the same thing. Anyways, it's one thing to do your own work and make that connection. I call it the vertical aspect. Kind of think of that cross, right? Maybe it's a good symbol because it represents the up and down, reaching to the Most High. We want to reach out to what we call God. We want to attain heaven on earth. You want to go to heaven, want to bring heaven on earth. All that up and down is that reaching out to the Most High. Okay, but the lateral, that's connecting across the world, being able to hold hands with the people around us. We're going to create that lateral connection through the spirit law of making friends with our neighbors, making friends with all of spiritual people in the world. Like, even the Dalai Lama, I was realizing, everybody that's contributing, no matter what their religion is, this is where you support everyone in prayer, because we all want the same truth. We all want to have the same connection, right? The same ultimate, the same grand ultimate reality. So anyways, I was thinking of the Tibetan Buddhist people, because we had a Buddhist center in Boulder, right? In the connection with the Dalai Lama and all that stuff. And I was just feeling like, like all these people, by just having that connection with them, I feel like it's helping me to be catapulted in the direction of the Most High. And so I got with my friend John, and we went up to Boulder, and we climbed up into those red rocks, where we could look out over Boulder, and I could tell him a little bit about this crazy experience, And it's funny, my friend Janet, before I left the house, she had a fit, and she took her cat and slammed it on the floor. And I felt like she was angry at me, and she was taking it on the animal, and I was really upset, and I needed John to take me away, and I was really pissed off, and I needed to calm down. So we went up on these rocks, and I had a conversation with him, and I said, we're ending the war, and he's like, what war, Jody? It's like, just all the war in the world. We're ending the war because we're bringing in spirit law, it's like, God damn it, Jody. You're just tripping on mushrooms. But anyway, so when we were climbing down those rocks, there was this guy that got ahead of us, and he looked like one of those Tibetan Buddhists, like a really young guy, the way he was dressed. And he had this big book, and it was open in his hands. Now, this isn't reality. It's and I think John even remembers it. That's why it's interesting, because usually I'm telling you some shit I hallucinated in a visionary state or something, right? Like, I just got done talking to God. And who knows if that really happened or not, the rate we're going. And now we're up in the... climbing up in those red rocks above Boulder, and as we're coming down, we saw this guy that he was just in front of us, and he had that book open, and he's climbing down the rocks with that book open, and it's got no words in it, like he's reading and walking, and he just kept being in front of us. Everywhere we went, he would be in front of us. And so we got down to the bottom, we got in his vehicle, and we went over I don't know if it's like 8th Street or something, or Pearl Street. We went up Pearl Street to get something to drink, and we saw that guy in front of us. And then we came out, got in his vehicle, and we were coming down Broadway, and that Broadway and a Rappel Hook. There that guy went again. Like, everywhere we went, this guy was in front of us with that book wide open, you know? And I just felt like it was like some kind of confirmation, like it was something to speak to me as far as realizing all the spiritual people in the world, including the Tibetan Buddhist people. All this kind of like the way we're networking on Earth, you know. I think that like the Native American people talk about the 4-directional guardianship, and I feel like, so there are spirit beings in the world that participate in the guardianship of the souls of humanity, and some of us become part of that. You know, I felt like, you know, I'm becoming part of that 4-directional guardianship, you know, that all these people are part of that, and including the Tibetan people, you know, the Tibetan Buddhist or the Dalai Lama and all that stuff. You know, I felt like this was my confirmation that that person was sent to like walk in front of us with that big empty book. And John, he even saw it, you know, he probably even remembers it to this day. And he said, "That is so crazy, Jody, like after all the stuff you just told me," you know, because I told him all that stuff, and we both saw the same thing. It wasn't our mistake, you know. So I felt like, you know, I just really wanted to share this piece of confirmation, because down in Colorado, I used to like to go to places like this, and that's where I went, you know. Like, instead of being up in Settlers Park and Red Rocks, you know, I'm here in Lone Pine Park up on some gray rocks. And so the rocks here are really different than Colorado, and it seems to be grassier and greener here. And Colorado seems to be just more naked land, you know, less plant life. And so the valley, I don't know, they call this area the New Colorado. I don't feel like I'm far from home, because I always feel like, you know, Denver's been like a home base to me. I don't feel like I'm far from Colorado. And just, you know, how that experience carries over into living up here, you know, like I felt like since I've come up here, my connection with Rosie and Howard Clearlight, you know, that's an honorary name given to them by Buddhist people, because he was one of the first people to help start a Buddhist monastery up here. And they're the type of hippies that support that east to west connection, you know. So we call it Zen Christian. It's kind of our little joke, because, you know, that, you know, you could be from anywhere in the world, and through the breathing meditation you should realize the same truth. And for them, they felt like the teaching of Jesus Christ, there's truth in that. And even Kung Fu Master Sin Kwang Te says something similarly, you know, that even though he's teaching from the Taoist and the Vedic lineage, even then there's the truth in the Christian teaching. You see what I'm saying? So that's where we got to look at the precept that truth is truth. And so, you know, I'm not here to like push any belief, you know. Beliefs can be dangerous, you know. So that's where, you know, we just want to like let things be flexible and be open-minded. You know, did I get contacted by what we call Jesus, and did they provide valuable confirmation in the way of spirit law? Yes, indeed. In fact, you know, I read a Bible like a couple years later. Like, I just figured it's, you know, I'm more of a theology student, you know, like, and everybody up here in Big Fork, they're all going to church and stuff. So I thought it was a good time to study that. And then currently speaking, you know, sometimes I do listen in or go to Jim's Bible studies, and sometimes it's a lot of fun, because it's just there for confirmation. And most importantly, you know, people who do church and form communities like that, a prayer community, it gives you an extended family. That's what it should serve as. It's your extended family. It should serve as, you know, prayer circle. So like, you know, you can combine your intentions for your upward attainment. You know, you can combine your what we call prayer, you know, stuff like that. So I've learned a lot, and I want to talk about in my next video is when I made it to Vision Quest. I feel like, you know, so I just had a very Christian-y experience, and then I'm going to go on to a Native American-y experience, and I feel like that is going to tie it all together. So anyways, man, if I left anything out, maybe I'll cover it in my next video. I just really wanted to go over the time that I met what we call God, what we call Jesus. How the strange thing is, I had the actually it's the Buddhist scroll from the Nichiren Buddhism, which is kind of a modernization, more of an evolution in Buddhism. And I felt like that's helped open me up to this realization that you're like a cell phone with the inner antenna. We can communicate to what we call Jesus, like, because everything's connected. And some of the content of the conversation is spirit law is achieved through friendship, because that way there's flow of energy between us. You know, fear makes like a kink in it all. But the friendship, that you let the Holy Spirit flow, you will communicate better to each other, and you'll open up the channel of communication to what we call God. So the kind of psychic awareness we want is not one where it's a satanic one and we're using it for evil purposes. The psychic awareness you want is one where you're communicating with more clarity to other people and communicating with more clarity to what we call God, what we call Jesus, or universal conscious, that type of thing. And it's very natural, and it's not weird or crazy. It's something that I think in the long term is going to be understood as humanity continues to develop or evolve and learn. So anyways, you guys have a fun day. This is where I live. I'm in the Flathead Valley, and I just wanted to share my insight from a beautiful point of view. Have a great day. I'll talk to you next time.